we were talking about what a government wants, right? So we were really looking to understand how we can effectively hand over a digital twin from design and build to maintenance and operation in ways that data can actually be delivered and maintained so that they are not only compliant, but that it goes through a streamlined process.
There is a shared diagnostic, even if we serve different portion of the industry, no matter if it's the A, the E, the C, or the O, and even across typology.
How to help the owner define what a digital twin is and how do they get what they want. They know they want something, but they really don't know what it is yet. So our challenge is how do we break down the barriers and remove the roadblocks to help educate and provide some value to the owners of if they want a digital twin, what do they ask for?
And it only happens when you have all of these separate stakeholders that are never sitting at the same table having productive conversations together, right? And that's the beauty of what we've been able to accomplish.
So how may we hand over a digital twin from design and build to operational maintenance in ways that data can be maintained and delivered so that the process is streamlined and compliant? Then we can flip it.
So as we went through the problems and we went through the roadblocks and whatnot, we also spent about 8 hours arguing what a digital twin was. We do like digital liar. Digital shit is also really good too as well. As we got through, we got down to a couple of base items in our problems, in our roadblocks and in our barriers of things like no training, it's cheaper not to do it. At the end of the day, the two biggest things that we came up with is that the owner doesn't know what they want, or three things. The owner doesn't know what they want. They're not prepared to accept it because they don't have the people who can work with it. And the contract language is not strong enough to let the contractor walk away, and it's cheaper to pay the fine than it is to do the work. So out of that, we came up with our rockets around, our solutions around market value proposition, clarify and specify requirements, define the value proposition, and this was the conceptual portion of the whole thing together. And our thought process was, from a solution standpoint, how do we provide something to an owner who may or may not know what they need to make it easy for them to get what they want? So Britton and came up with the idea to use AI Google for an app, and he fed in all of our discussion and came up with this.
Yeah, so we built a configurator that you can choose whether this is a consultant or the owner themselves that can go through and grab the various constraints or variables that they want as deliverables, and it will automatically sort of right-size the contract language, the training docs, the right people who you should have on your team. So we'll just do a couple as a quick example. So operations and maintenance, predictive maintenance, compliance and reporting, since it's a government project. Then we can go to our data maintainability side. How should this data be maintained after handover? Is it static, meaning there are no updates, all the way to continuous? It stays updated in real time. And obviously the higher the level, the more complex. The data completeness side, how complete does your asset need to be? All maintainable assets or critical assets, linked documentation, data definition and compatibility. Let's just make it interoperable, IFC and COBie standards. And then data capturing and sharing will make it continuous. And as you can tell, our little fidelity chart over here is growing as we go. So we basically chose the most, or almost the most complex way of doing this, but it has a lot of value, and the cost of it is obviously very high. So then your cost optimization options, if your owner is maybe not wanting to bite off all that, here's some recommendations that they can do to lower the cost. And then lastly, here is the enforcement and execution layer. So the required deliverables, required roles, training program, and contract language. And I think one of the things I'll say here is we ultimately settled on we need to give them a way to write this in the contract for them that makes sense for the project, and not everything makes sense for every project. So they need to be able to configure it to do that.
So the goal of the configurator, to go back to our to summarize what we saw, was how does an owner best get what they want from a digital twin? How do they put it in their contract, and how do they write the language to get it? So I think we kind of hit the big problems that we were looking for and provided it in a process. I think our next steps, where was Nathan? So from a 365 standpoint, our next step is clean it up, brand it CPC, and release it out to the world so people can try it. And we kind of want to thank Charlie for kicking us in the ass and getting us to do something with action.
So guys, you just saw the birth of what we call DT Genie, which is Digital Twin Genie. And for any transformation, there is 3 components: where we are starting from and where we are going in order to define the path. Here, it's really either an illusion or should be naive to pretend to say we know what this should be. So it's what we are offering is a virtual assistant to enlighten the owner to define what the future may be and should be, and taking all this complexity. Either we have a scenario where we have a fresh new greenfield project and we have a lot of leverage, but I think the 90% is the built area as well, and they are as candidate as the new project, so we can define different levels of start and different levels of ambition and sketch the line and evaluate the impact, value, cost, and it's not pretending to give one result, but to give this good, best, and better. So that's our value proposition.
And then, yeah, just add one other thing. From a marketing standpoint, constantly thinking, could this potentially generate any revenue? So potential way down the road, if whoever is filling this out needs some help with some of that contract language, call to action for consulting on that contract. So, yeah.
That's it? Do we open it up for questions? Questions. Anybody have questions for the team?
There was a definite positive unlock from Charlie kicking us in the ass this morning, and I would love to just extract what was your AI process in creating this resource?
Well, we started with basically notes being taken from the high level of what we wanted to accomplish, what the problems were. I used ChatGPT to create the prompts. Did some sort of ideation in ChatGPT first, and then created a prompt, and then brought it into AI Studio and iterated from there.
You guys noticed it changes its own name. It couldn't decide on digital twin either. It changes from what structured model, connected twin.
Oh, this.
Like based on what, yeah. So it couldn't choose its thing either. So.
I think that does a good job of managing expectations with the human user. So yeah, as you guys make adjustments here, it does a good job of managing expectations of the fidelity of that model, which when you say digital twin, that could mean 1,000 different things, as you guys outlined. It could be digital wastebasket. It could be, digital twin. And everybody has like this amazing imaginary digital model that you could walk through and play Halo in, right?
Yeah, I actually think that's an important part we didn't even talk about. We actually defined, for the purpose of this exercise, the digital twin was the digital representation of the physical assets. So it could be a spreadsheet if all you have to do is list a set of hospital beds. We gave an example in a hospital. Or it could be a full fidelity model.
That's the core of the entire exercise we did, is exactly that we started from there, from the basic kind of generic definition. Mm-hmm. And then we understood what needs to be is like to set up the expectations and to help the owner to define exactly what he needs. So
another marketing model would be recommending the tools that can actually deliver the files that deliver that fidelity. So you strike up conversations and partnerships with specific tools that all the downstream contractors would be using to provide the structured data needed to support something like this.
Yeah, I think that's farther down. We specifically didn't want to put any technology or file formats. We figured that would be something the owner would fill in based on their environment. So. I know we're running out of time, so.
Yeah, maybe one last. We've been talking about this notion of sophisticated simplification of complexity. which means we are just deconstructing this notion of this monolithic, this digital twin. That's why intentionally we said it can be different things. It can be a button click. I'm not a surveyor. I know how to scan. It's just you click it. Or it can be different levels of sophistication based on the need. So that's the core message and the value proposition of this. And so the diagnostic was quite consistent across all those stakeholders, and even the vision and the ambition, there was a really interesting alignment about what the future can be and should be. So yeah, I'm very grateful to share and even to take a lot of ideas to bring back home with me to Paris.
So we're attacking it not necessarily from the contractual side of suggesting what we should be doing. We're taking an industry involvement approach where we get involved in groups like CPC, the International Highway Exchange Program, IHEAP, other places like that where we can drive culture and behavior through example.
The reason why I've been back 5 years is the fact that I've built and maintained relationships from the first day to new ones that I've created here in my 5th year. And it also is important for companies like Ignite to be here with other great sponsors like Trimble and Esri and Kahua and CFMA, because that's how we grow as an industry.